Good morning and welcome to WHIO Report. It's a community service of News Center 7. I'm Jim Oddie. Thanks for joining us this morning. And today in the program, we're taking a look into the future of the Miami Valley. Our focus is Montgomery County, and there's a movement underway to plan ahead. It's a new and innovative way to find our way in the future for this community, and it is a community-wide effort. Change is in the wind, but we're not sure exactly where it's going to take us. Much of the discussion is about reshaping how local government delivers the services that we depend on every day. The project is called MCO Future. Our first segment, guests are Montgomery County Commissioner Debbie Lieberman, Commissioner Dan Foley, and Jane Dockery of Wright State University. Welcome to the program this morning. I want to show folks at home a little bit of video here so we can get some perspective. And I want to point out that already we have some services that are here, a good example of regional cooperation. The first one that comes to mind is the Regional Dispatch Center. At home, when you call 911, these are the people who answer your call. This is the one organization all at a single location that dispatches emergency crews throughout the county. It saves time and money, seems like a natural win-win for any government that gets involved, but change can be difficult, even if it's going to save money in the long run. Commissioner Lieberman, so that brings us to the question, what are you trying to accomplish here?
Well, what we're trying to accomplish through these forums over the next year is to not only educate the citizens, but to hear from the citizens. You know, we really believe that citizen input into how we're going to face the future is critical. So what we're doing is each forum is going to be a different topic. The last one that we had a few weeks ago was incredible. We had about 500 people come, voice their opinions. We were able to share from elected officials, but we were also able to share with what our partners have been doing. You're going to hear from Jane in a little bit, but you know, what is this? What does it mean to you? And so we know that Montgomery County, we've always kind of been ahead of the curve in innovation. I mean, that's our history. And when we look at the way governments are structured in Ohio, when we look at how economic development's been working in Ohio, you know, we know that what we've faced over the last 10 years here has, you know, people have been looking for jobs and good jobs. And so we thought, let's get ahead of the curve here, because as funding cuts from federal and state have really taken a toll on our budgets and our local jurisdictions, other local jurisdictions' budgets, we thought, the commissioners thought, this is the opportunity for us to really look at this and say, what can we do in the future? What are the steps that we should take? But we wanted to involve the citizens.
So these forums that you're having, Commissioner Dan Foley, this is a little bit of talking and a lot of listening about what people want.
Yeah, Commissioner Lieberman really hit on the fact that, you know, the listening part is important for us. But the listening part is going to be framed around real data, real objective data about how we stack up against other communities around the country. You know, not New York, not Chicago, but communities that are like Dayton. And that's why Jane with Wright State University and Sinclair and the University of Dayton are really helping us try to frame these discussions around where we stack up, but also, and where we started last week was, we just wanted to take the temperature of the community. We wanted to say, you know, what's your opinion about the current structure of government? What's your personal capacity for being willing to change, right? Because if we step back at the 10,000 foot, what we're really trying to do is create the conditions where we compete outward instead of competing inward. And many of us, I mean, Commissioner Lieberman, myself, and Jane may have 3 different opinions about what the best mousetrap should be for local government at the end of the day, but we all 3 agree that we got to listen and we got to use real data in order to get there. And, and the biggest reason is because we have to compete economically against not just, you know, communities in the U.S., but also communities globally as well.
So Jane Dockery, you've been listening to what people have to say in a very scientific way. Do you have an idea about what they want, or do they know what they want?
Well, I think some of the findings are pretty clear about what people want, what kind of change, what kind of support, what kind of focus they want from their local and county government. So, for example, we asked people, what kind of future outlook do you perceive for the county, for your local area? And 2/3 of people said we see a brighter future, but we have some concerns, and our primary concerns are about jobs and the economy. And so in relation to other topics of interest, of concern to citizens, jobs and the economy outpaced any other concern by 2.5 times. And there is good news in all of this, though, in that citizens believe that their local and county government can have an impact on jobs in the economy. So their number one concern also has an area for solutions.
Do you have any way of testing how people feel about that phrase, regionalism?
Oh, what a great question. We did test various phrases in the survey. Regionalism, merged services, shared services. And we did find that people have a more open view about words like collaboration, shared services, and about half, a little over half, are in support of concepts like consolidation, regionalism, merged services.
How do you get past that, the inertia of just doing more of the same? Throughout Ohio's history, the battle cry has always been, when it comes to governance, local control, and at the smallest level, right down to the village and township. Commissioner Lieberman, how do you overcome that and say, we've got to move beyond that?
And that is the challenge, Jim. You know, we hear all the time, it's okay if you want to share services, but don't talk about merging. But I think the numbers show that if there's a reason to do it, if it makes sense, you know, and we truly believe that as we learn over the next year, that there could be something that comes out of this where people can keep their identities of their jurisdictions. You know, there's so many different types of government throughout the country. And, you know, we're just, you know, 86 of the 88 counties in Ohio still have a statutory form of government. And I think there are real opportunities here, but people can still keep, you know, their identity in their jurisdictions too. You know, we believe that change is coming, and we have to do something so that we can create the environment for jobs and our economy to grow, but we also want to keep our services solid and strong without raising taxes. And that's one of the biggest complaints that we hear as commissioners and our economic development team, is that in Ohio, when companies come and they're comparing us to maybe, let's say, Indiana, there's so many local governments here. You know, they're like, I don't even want to mess with this. All these different layers of taxes. Can't you people make it easier, simpler? And so, you know, I think that's a task that we have to take seriously, because we know when we have lost businesses to Indiana from our region, that's what they've said to us. On the flip side, though, the things that they do find positive are the things that we do as a county for workforce, the positive things that we're doing here to get the employer to the employee. And so while we've got challenges, we've got a lot of strengths too. And so we want to build on those strengths to make sure that this is a place where businesses say, oh, let's go to Montgomery County because it's really easy to do business there.
So Dan, do you have a definitive vision of what you would like to create? Or is that still in the making here, for example?
I'll answer it two ways. One is, and well, here's what I think the elements have to be to get us to a more innovative system. You know, whether it's local government or we need to listen to people like we're doing through these MCO forums. You need data, because it's almost like you have to make a return on investment case to the community that says, here's where we are, here's where we could be, right? You need elected leaders like Commissioner Lieberman and myself, other leaders, but you also need private sector individuals who are willing to stand up and say, look, we're not trying to criticize people individually, but we think there's a better mousetrap that's going to help us grow jobs. And then you have to have a collective thick skin, because as you indicated, this is not easy. I mean, it is not an easy thing to take a system of government that was formed 200 years ago and make change like we believe we could in order to grow our economy. And so what we're really hoping through this year is that certainly by listening, by getting the data that Jane and our friends are helping us with, that a year from now we're going to be in a better position, that people at least can't say, well, you guys are all doing this in a smoke-filled room. Because if you, I think one of the things that the data talked about was that people are optimistic about the potential for change, but you need to do it in a way that doesn't force it down anybody's collective, you can't force it down people's throats to do it, So.
Before we take a break, I want to talk about the next community forum that's coming up. This is on April 11th at Sinclair Community College. In the next segment, we'll talk about who you expect to be at that event and what people will hear if they attend. Okay. Thanks for your time on the program this morning. We're going to go to our next round of guests after the break. You're watching WHIO Reports here on News Center 7. Back in just a moment. Welcome back to WHI Reports. Today on the program, we're talking about a local effort to plan for the future, improve how local governments operate here in the Miami Valley to make sure we get the services we all pay for and depend on every day. Our guest in this segment of the program, Montgomery County Commissioner Judy Dodge, State Senator Peggy Lehner, and Trotwood Mayor Joyce Sutton Cameron. Thanks for being here on the program. I want to talk first, though, about the next community forum that's coming up that you're all going to be attending here. This is coming up April 11th. Sinclair Community College. This is 5 to 7 in Building 12. Parking is free, so it's going to be easy to attend. And we'll talk about that upcoming forum. And I also wanted to show people a great resource that's available to everybody. It's out on the internet. You can get more information about this effort. It's at mcofuture.com. You can see an overview of what the project is trying to accomplish, get more information about what the government structure is currently, and read some articles, read all those articles about what other communities have done really around the country. And you can even watch the video of that first community forum that was held recently. Once again, the next forum coming up in April. Commissioner Dodge, you've seen some of the research on this particular project, and you know the history of the Miami Valley. What do you draw from that research that helps you plan for the future?
I think the greatest thing is the fact that 60, 70, 80% of the respondents to this survey feel good about our economy here in the local area. Now, they know that we've had some struggles, but in 5 years, they're thinking in 5 years from now, things are going to turn around and jobs are going to be coming to the area. And I think that is the thing that I take away that makes me feel good, and that is that our citizens feel good. You know, here in Montgomery County area, we've had some really, some tough blows here with GM closing down, NCR. But you know what? That was several years ago. People now are starting to feel better. And that's a good thing to see. So that makes me feel good.
So Peggy Lehner, when you read the stats and you hear some of the feedback already from the initial go-around of the community forum, you're feeling better about this process, more optimistic? Maybe we need more information before we proceed? How do you feel?
Well, I think Montgomery County is going about this the right way in collecting as much information and getting as much input from their citizens as possible. Heck, government's changing. There's no question about it. You know, from the state level, there's less money. That means we're sending less money to the locals. We're going to have to change. We cannot continue to operate the same way we did 200 years ago when our country was founded and our cities and townships, and that whole system is something that we have to look at. And I think we're going about it carefully, thoughtfully, and with the citizens, the people most affected by that, at the table.
Okay, so we've heard from the state, that's you, Peggy, the county, Commissioner, that's you. Now we have the local person to say yes, thumbs up or thumbs down. Mayor, how do you feel about this so far?
I feel really good about the process. I feel that the standard piece is being taken care of. How can we make change if we don't have the data and if we don't have the right people at the table to drive the change process?
So do you think in this process that people, it really makes any difference to people at home? I'm talking day-to-day services. Does it really make any difference to people who picks up the trash as long as the cost is the same? You know, who runs the sewer or water district, who runs the park system? If it's going to be done in a quality fashion with the same price, does it really make any difference?
I think it really makes a difference. People need to know. They need to be more informed about the whole process. There is a flow that must take place in this process as you go towards change. Some people, the statistics say that most people are in tune with really what's going on, but they really don't know the specifics or details of how we got there. And that is important.
And that is important. There's only so many things you are allowed to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you want to make changes, don't you have to change some state laws here?
Well, I mean, there probably are changes that need to be made from the state's perspective, but I'm going to just follow up a little bit on what the mayor said here. It probably doesn't matter who picks up your trash or who takes care of your sewer lines. What does matter, though, to people is that when the trash isn't picked up, that they know who to call. And a lot of people have a fear that if we go to a regional system or the state starts picking up your trash, you know, they aren't going to know who to call when they get skipped that day. So it's that sort of thing you have to be very careful of in this kind of consolidation, that you keep that high level of contact with people so that they know, they feel like they're in control of their own destiny and they haven't just sort of become a cog, you know, out there in some big wheel.
Well, I was just going to say, and one of the things that we're taking our time with this, you know, we're not racing into doing anything in just a few months. This is going to be almost a year-long process. So this is why we really want to hear from the public. And really, what do they say? You know, are they interested in this or not? So we're taking our time. We're not pushing anything. So.
And one of the things I wanted to note here is that you are in completely new territory. Across Ohio, I don't know of any other community that's doing this. There is no model to follow within Ohio. So you're all breaking new ground. And what you do here, other people are going to be watching.
Right. One of the things that we are doing at the state level that is sort of pushing this sort of process is we've created the Local Government Innovation Fund that is encouraging communities like Montgomery County to get together and to come up with innovative ways to save money, provide more efficient services in a more collaborative way. So while Montgomery County is sort of taking the lead, they are sort of being part of a bigger picture that is encouraging this kind of activity.
So far in your research, have you found anything that maybe nobody had thought of before that the countywide or even a regional approach could do that maybe 50 years ago people would have said, oh, you're crazy, we could never do that collectively to save money? What comes
you know,
to mind
I was going to say 6 months or so ago, a group of us went to Louisville because they merged with their county. And it took them over 20 years they started talking about this over 20 years ago. So I think that we have to be cognizant of the fact that this may take quite some time to even get to where we really want to be, and we don't really even know where we want to be. We want to hear what the citizens are saying, what they want, because this is a great community.
Do you have an idea in your mind what's in it for taxpayers? People at home watching this morning and saying, well, wait a minute, how does this affect me? Do you know yet?
Well, I think the end goal here is to provide more or better, or at least equal services at less cost. Because there's just plain less revenue coming in, and we don't want to keep going back to our citizens and asking for more local, state, or federal taxes.
On the local level, and I mean the very local level, on the level of a city, if you're a well-run, successful city, you have a great case to make. But you may not be all in on this regionalism thing because it seems to help those places that are not quite as successful and need money.
Exactly, and that takes me back to my first. It must be a collaboration, first of all, and it must be inclusive. So once you start doing things with your partnering jurisdictions, and once you start kind of like feeling what's out there, you've already listened to the citizens and the community, and you're going to get both sides of it. There are going to be citizens that's going to come forward and say, you know, we don't want to do anything with our police department. We don't want to do anything with our fire department. We don't want to do those type things. So once we get further down the road, we will be able to have the comparison to where we can go forward with the information. But until we get further down the road and keep listening to what we're doing here, I think that our priorities will impact what we're moving towards the future with.
As you plan for the future, we're building as you go and collecting additional information. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, I want to talk about that next community forum that's coming up and who you would like to see attend, what information those people will be able to get from that. Stay with us. We'll be back with more in just a moment on WHI Reports. Our guest on the program this morning, Montgomery County Commissioner Judy Dodge, State Senator Peggy Lehner, and Trotwood Mayor Joyce Sutton Cameron. We're talking about a local effort here in the Miami Valley, specifically Montgomery County, to plan for the future. Community forum on this effort is coming up. This is on April 11th at Sinclair Community College, Building 12. The parking is free, and so this is a pretty easy event to attend, 5 to 7 p.m. Commissioner Dodge, who would you hope is attending these forums, and what should their expectations be?
Our first forum, we were not sure how many people were going to show up. We had about 150 RSVPs. All of a sudden we get there, they're putting up more and more chairs. We had close to 500 citizens. And this was a broad range. We had business people, we had people that brought their children, we had government people, just a wide variety of individuals. We'd love to double that, because this is about our community, and we want input, and we want the citizens to tell us what they want. So we're going to be talking about the economy on April 11th, 5 to 7 at Sinclair. Free parking.
Okay, so I can just see you putting out a couple of questions, but Peggy, really the effort here is to listen, not to lecture, not to talk.
Right, and that's an important point, Jim, because one thing I did notice at the last forum was some of the questions asked of the audience where they stood on particular positions did not seem to be in great alignment with some of the findings of the citizens that were called on the telephone. And that just makes me think that there's some people out there that think this may be a predetermined outcome, and they're not bothering. We want everyone to come to this, regardless of whether you think regionalism is the best idea in the world or the worst idea in the world. If we don't have an actual true representation of the folks in this community, the forums are going to end up being somewhat skewed data. So that's important.
And you want, Mayor, you want all voices across the board, political, non-political, government, non-government.
Yes, and the way that we're doing this is so unique. We are emailing out, we're asking people who have that particular nest that they email to and keep in contact with. We're asking them to go out and just send a blast. Everyone is sending blasts out. We're doing the TV, we're doing the radio. We're doing all of those things to invite people to the table. And if people don't want to come to the table, contact your elected officials. Have them bring the questions to the table for you. There are many ways that we can get this thing moving.
And plan for the future.
Exactly.
As we go, and we'll be following you in this process as well. Thanks for your time on the program this morning. Check the website, mcofuture.com. A lot of good information there. We'll see you at the forum on the 11th. For the latest news coverage, check our website as well. It's all WHIO-TV.com. You'll see today's top news stories, a lot of interesting reports about what's happening around the region, the best of our Eyewitness 7 partners. They're working hard every day in the Miami Valley to make sure you're covered from weather and sports and breaking news. That's our program this morning. Thanks for being with us. I'll see you next week. I'm Jim Oddie on WHIO Reports.